Can losing weight really be as easy as just adding a few walks a week to your routine? The information out there is all over the place, so as usual, I'm going to the actual scientific studies to find the answer. I'm also going to tell you about how you can optimize the amount of fat burning you do from walking, and I bet you'll be surprised by the answer. Hey there, I'm Mish, and I am a full-time researcher with my PhD, and by day I conduct and publish studies of my own, whereas by night I share the results of other people's studies here to help you reach your weight loss, fitness, health, and nutrition goals. The question of whether walking is useful for weight loss is more controversial than one might expect, because if you do a Google search, you will get information strongly on both sides of the spectrum. So for example, you'll have blogs and news articles and whatnot saying that walking is not useful for weight loss, whereas you can also find a bunch of these type of popular sites like magazines and whatnot saying that walking is extremely useful for weight loss. So as usual, when confronted with these kinds of debates, I go straight to the science and try to get the best answer for you all based on the highest quality science I can. And specifically, the studies I'll be talking about today include a meta-analysis on whether walking is good for weight loss, whether just adding walking to your routine and changing nothing else causes weight loss. Then I'll also be going over a study that compares walking to running and biking for the same amount of time to see how fat burning varies between those three. And then lastly, I will be going over a study on how you can burn the most fat for a given amount of walking. So stick around till the end if you want to know how you can get more fat burning out of the same amount of walking. First, for some very brief background, I will be talking quite a bit about body fat percentage today. So I just want to talk about a little nuance there, because when most people say they want to lose weight, what they really mean is that they want to lose fat and lower their body fat percentage, because the aesthetic benefits and the health benefits of weight loss pretty much all come from lowering your body fat percentage. Because, for example, a lot of people end up looking a lot better and getting a lot healthier while staying at the same weight because they lose fat and gain muscle. So a lot of the results I'll be talking about today are about body fat percentage, in addition to weight, but the ones we should really care about are body fat percentage. The first study I have for you today is a meta-analysis, which if you watch my channel, then you probably already know is the gold standard of studies, because it looks at a bunch of different studies to find the real effect that comes out of all these studies. And this meta-analysis included over 1,100 participants looking at a bunch of different walking interventions for weight loss and cardiovascular health. And this meta-analysis looked at randomized controlled trials where the only thing the researchers did was tell participants to walk more. Their diets weren't changed, their other aspects of exercise weren't changed, they just had more walking added to their usual daily lives. And the meta-analysis found that on average, these studies had people walk 4 times a week for 40 minutes per session for 35 weeks. And they found that on average, people lost 2 pounds or 1 percentage point of body fat, which is kind of a lot for just adding walking to your routine, I'd say, especially given that no other dietary changes were made of any kind. Interestingly, the people in the control groups who didn't add walking to their routine actually gained a few pounds on average. So not only did adding walking to people's routines prevent the weight gain that most people have happened to them over time as they age, but adding walking also caused weight loss on top of that prevention of weight gain. So really it's a net weight loss of like 5 pounds compared to the people who didn't add any walking to their routine. The meta-analysis also found that just adding 40 minutes of walking 4 times a week lowered blood pressure by 1 to 1.5 points for both systolic and diastolic blood pressure, and also raised VO2 max by 3, which is a measure of cardiovascular fitness. So people increase their fitness and lower their blood pressure substantially thanks to just adding a little bit of walking to the routine. So it's pretty clear that just adding walking to your routine causes weight loss and, more importantly, makes you lose fat. But how does it stack up against other kinds of exercise? In the next study I am going to talk about, these researchers compared walking to biking and running. And importantly, they matched all of these exercises in terms of how long participants spent doing them, how often they did them, and even their heart rate was approximately matched between each of these exercises. Participants were randomly assigned to do running, walking, or biking, and for every group, participants did these exercises 30 minutes per session, 3 times a week for 20 weeks. And because I know a lot of you are curious about the specific numbers for these kinds of studies so you can replicate them in your own life, the walking group walked approximately 3.75 miles per hour, which is a pretty brisk walk. And the running group ran between 6 and 7 miles per hour, and that varied by person depending on their age and how hard that was for them, because they tried to match the intensity between these different exercises within a given person. And then the biking group biked at approximately 60 to 70 RPM. And now for the results, the running group lost 3 pounds over these 20 weeks, just running 3 times a week for 30 minutes. And the biking group lost 2.5 pounds, doing these same number of sessions, while the walking group lost 3 pounds. So the walking group lost just as much as the running group and lost more than the biking group. And now for the more important numbers, which is body fat percentage. The running group lost about 1.2 points. The biking group also lost about 1.2 points, whereas the walking group lost 3 body fat percentage points, so more than twice as much as the running and biking groups, despite doing the same number of sessions of exercise for the same amount of time. And this may sound crazy, but it does actually make sense with what we know about fat burning at different intensity levels. So to reference a very old video here, if you're curious about the crossover concept, which is how the percentage of carbs versus fat that we burn changes with intensity, check that out. But for a little mini version here, as the intensity is lower in an exercise, you actually burn more fat compared to carbs, whereas when you do a very high intensity exercise, you burn more carbs compared to fat. Now, the researchers did try to match the intensity between these 3 different exercises in the study, but they found that in the end, walking was still lower intensity than running and biking because it was just very hard for them to get walking to be as difficult as running or biking. So it makes sense that because walking ended up being a lower intensity exercise, they ended up burning more fat and less carbs from that exercise, and therefore they lost more of their body fat from walking compared to these higher intensity exercises. And now for the third part of this video, I'm going to tell you how you can get the most fat burning out of your walking. And this is for the same amount of time that you are already walking or that you already plan to walk. And for our next study, they looked at how to reach peak fat oxidation levels during exercise. So you want to be at peak fat oxidation levels if you are trying to lose fat, because it means you're at your best fat burning point in terms of intensity. And they looked at grams, not percentage. So for those of you who know about the crossover concept or have watched the other videos talking about, then you know that ultimately grams are going to be more important for how much fat you burn compared to percentage, because if you're sitting around doing nothing, you're actually going to be burning a very high percent of fat. It just won't be very much. Whereas you want to get to a point where you're doing enough exercise at enough intensity to burn the maximum amount of fat before it starts to decline from burning too many carbs, from going to higher intensity. So there's like a sweet spot where you're burning more from doing stuff, but not doing so much stuff that you stop burning fat. And the study found that the maximum level of fat oxidation happens at about 60% of your maximum heart rate. And that is very easy to calculate. The crude estimate that is generally given is 220 minus your age equals your maximum heart rate. So if you were looking to maximize how much fat you burn from walking, then you should aim to walk at an intensity that causes you to be at about 60% of your maximum heart rate. And if you don't feel like calculating that and figuring it out, then the study found that for men, the average best rate of walking was 3.4 miles per hour, whereas for women, it was about 3 miles per hour to maximize fat burning. So the next time you hear someone talking about how walking is useless for weight loss or how it's far inferior to running or biking or whatever else, you now have some science you can show them if you want to refute them and defend the wonders of walking. And if you're curious about the best type of exercise and best intensity of exercise for your specific diet, I actually have a video going over a bunch of different diets and what type of exercise is likely best for that diet based on the science. Also, I wanted to say sorry for missing last week's video. I had a family health emergency, so I had to extend my trip and was out of town for longer than planned, and so I didn't get a chance to do a video for last week. So thank you for your patience over the holiday, and I plan to get back to weekly videos. And I hope you had a very lovely holiday. If you are interested in supporting me in making these videos or saying thanks because you find them useful, then please head on over to my GoFundMe or my Patreon. The GoFundMe is for one time, and the Patreon is if you want to pledge a certain amount of money every month of your choosing to get bonus content. So I hope you found this useful, and if you are into New Year's resolutions, I hope this can encourage you to consider adding walking to your routine, not only for weight loss, but also because it's just amazing for your health, and it's nice to get outside. If you like this video, please like and share it so other people can get this information too. And if you haven't already, please hit the subscribe button and the notification bell to stay up to date on my videos. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.